23 different polishers, 4 different categories, and we picked the best. So we set out to find the best orbital polishers, and I say orbital polishers because we left out the rotaries in this, because we just felt like that's a different category altogether. I'd say it'd be hard to compare an orbital of some sort to a rotary.
Yeah.
Initially, we were just trying to find, hey, what's the best polisher out there? But what we really found out is there's pretty much 4 distinct categories that these fall into. So that's what we divided these up into, is 4 distinct categories, and that is just your professional orbital polisher.
Yep.
Your cordless polisher, which most of them will fall in the pro category, but a cordless polisher, and then the micro polisher, which would be your smaller polisher, say 3-inch and smaller, and then into your entry-level polisher. You may even consider that your car enthusiast, your DIY person, something like that, but that entry-level polisher. So those are our 4 categories. Now, in those 4 categories, pretty much divided pretty evenly. Most of them had 5, 6, or 7 polishers in each one of the categories, totaling 23. Now, we had everybody from Flex to MaxShine to Rupes to DeWalt, Adams, Makita, Griots, Eastwood, and Porter Cable were all in the fight. Now, one name, really a couple of names to mention there, one that you won't recognize or is not in there, is the Torq units from Chemical Guys.
Correct.
They declined to enter. They were not interested in entering the contest. We contacted Chemical Guys as well as the parent company, and again, they were not interested and declined to enter. Rupes also only had 1 machine in there, because really they declined to enter as well, but we
have one.
Yeah, you had the Mark III, the Rupes Mark III, so we thought, you know what, we'll put that in the fight. We know everybody's going to want to know, hey, how did the Rupes compare to everybody else? So, also, when we started asking for machines and getting all the machines in, and by the way, all the manufacturers really worked well with us, and we really appreciate that, especially through all this COVID mess. It's been quite a long journey, and trying to compare 23 different machines with the large majority of them really, really good machines. It's hard to really distinguish between those. It's taking quite a while. And all of the different manufacturers, and I shouldn't say all of them, most of them said, oh, you need to pair our pad with it. Oh, we want you to pair our product with it. And that just really doesn't give you an even across the board approach, right?
Not at all, not at all.
And you as a detailer, typically, that's pretty common, is you're going to choose pads and products that you want to use, right?
Yes.
And you know, while you may stick with a certain product, that still will change depending on what type of finish you're looking for.
Usually day to day.
Yeah. Whether you're on a single stage paint, whether you're on a what have you. So what we decided to do was say, you know what, we're going to go to a product that we know is great. And so we went to Sonax and said, hey, could you provide the polish and the pads? And they were great to do so. So that's why we set out, what did we get, the EX0406?
Yep. Cut and finish.
Cut and finish, and the
new Cut Max, which is now
the new Ultimate Cut.
Yes.
And then a yellow and a red pad.
Yep.
So that's what we used on all the machines, except for the micro machines, the smaller machines, and we went to a common blue pad, Lake Country, or
I believe so, yeah, which is almost,
Shine,
which is extremely comparable to the yellow.
Yeah, so again, but for the most part, all our 5 and 6 inch machines were all running the Sonax pads with the Sonax products as well. So, and that worked out great, because again, that gave us an even playing field, so we could actually test the machines and not worry about whether we were testing pads and testing products and seeing differences on that. Also, one thing that's different, I've done many shootouts and on my channel, from impact wrenches and drills and saws. And typically when you look at power tools, it's power, it's performance on what wins the fight.
Yeah.
It's not so much the case when it comes to a polisher.
It's not, because you're doing something with this polisher day in and day out. In my line, I've got this polisher in my hand 6, 7, 8 hours every day. So you've got a little bit difference in categories there. You're more worried about how it feels in your hand and stuff like that, other than just, hey, it's got brute force power and it's going to go full on and stuff like that.
Yeah, and that's a great point, because as you mentioned, you know, let's take a mechanic, and even a guy that's taking wheels off cars all day long, he may have that impact wrench in his hand literally an hour a day, literally in his hand using it. And so when you talk about ergonomics in a tool like that, that's a lot different than a tool that is literally in your hands
every day,
6 hours a day,
absolutely, 5
hours a day. Now you're literally worried about ergonomics, and that means the weight is a little bit higher on a tool like this.
Absolutely.
It can have all the power and performance in the world, but man, if it's heavy and lethargic and
beating you to death,
yeah, you're going to find something else to use.
Yeah.
So again, that's one thing that was kind of an eye opener to me, was that, man, ergonomics really makes a difference, a large difference in these tools. So we weighted these with ergonomics, performance, features, price, and really not just price, but price turned into value.
Exactly.
You know, what are you getting for your dollar? Just making a $10 polisher doesn't mean you win the fight.
Exactly.
You know, it's got to have value as well. So let's look at our different categories and see who was in there, and then we'll actually get to the results. So, you know, let us get through and kind of tell you who's in the fight, and then we'll get right to the results, and then we'll break these down a little further after we give you the results. So looking at our entry level, in our entry level was the Makita PO 5000C.
Yep.
So that's a corded model.
Yep.
So all these entry level will be corded models. So that's the Makita. It's got dual functions on it. And then the Adams 15 millimeter.
Yep.
The Adams 21 millimeter, which really those machines were pretty much identical.
Extremely similar. Yes.
Extremely similar,
yes.
Just literally difference in rotation.
In throw, yep.
Or in throw, yeah.
Yep.
Then we had the MaxShine M8S.
Yes.
The Eastwood Contour, and the Porter Cable 7424 XP.
Yep.
So that was our entry level. In our cordless category, our cordless pro category would be the Flex XFE 15, and which would be that's their
random orbital, yes.
Random orbital.
Yes.
Then we had the Flex XCE,
which is their forced rotation.
And then we had the DeWalt DCM 848, so that's DeWalt's cordless unit. Then the Makita EXO P02T, and the Adams 15 millimeter cordless.
Yeah.
So that rounded out, there was 5 cordless models. And then we got into the micro, what we're calling the micro, so 3-inch and smaller. The Flex PXE80, which is also a cordless model.
Exactly.
So that was the only cordless model that wasn't in the cordless fight. It was
that moved over, yeah.
Yeah, it moved over into the micro because it was a smaller machine. So Flex PXE80, the Griots G8.
Yep.
The Flex XFE 712, again, that would be a random orbital.
Exactly.
And then the MaxShine M312 and the Adams 12 millimeter Mini. So those were the 5 units that were in our micro polisher category, and then into what we're calling our pro category. So this just kind of be the big boys.
Exactly.
But they're not all long throw polishers. But these would be the big boys that you're using
every day, almost every time.
If you don't have a cordless in your hand, this would be the go-to.
Yeah.
So we got the Griots G9, the Flex XFE 7-150, which is again their
random orbital.
The Flex XCE 10-8, which is their forced rotation. And then their Flex XC 3401, which is kind of their original forced rotation.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then the Rupes, so that was the 21 millimeter.
Yep.
Mark III.
Yep.
And then the MaxShine M15 Pro 2 and the Adams SK Pro 15 millimeter. So that rounded out our professional category. So those were the 23 units that were in the fight. Now, what we want to do, we want to go right to the results.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the results.
Okay.
We won't keep you waiting any longer. And what we're going to do, what do we say we hit the top 2 or 3 in each category?
Okay.
And then what we'll do after that is kind of dig into the details, but we'll try to give you just kind of the results, and then we'll go back and give the details, so you're not waiting 20 minutes on the results on this. So we'll go back to the entry-level category and the overall scores. Scoring number 1 was the Makita PO 5000C at 86 points.
Yep.
So that's this model
right here
in front of us.
Yeah.
Then we had the Adams 15 millimeter at 84 points.
Yep.
And really tied to that was the Adams 21
they're same.
millimeter.
Yeah, that just becomes variation of if you want a longer or shorter throw is all that changes there.
Yeah, pretty much identical machines.
Yes, exactly.
Even in use. Yeah. So those were the top 3 in the entry level. Cordless, we had the The two flexes finished up top.
Yes, yeah, at almost pretty much dead even. You
Yeah.
just, the only thing that changes there is your difference between your random orbit or your forced rotation. So it just changes a little bit to whether if you want to deal with a random orbital or you want to deal with that forced rotation.
And so that's why. So basically, we had the random orbital finishing 2 points ahead with 85 points, and at 83 points was the XCE, which is the forced rotation.
Exactly.
And really, the machines, I mean, it's an ergonomic thing.
It is, based off comfort.
Rotation, even though it does well, it still is going to work you a little harder.
It is.
Than just a total random orbital. And then finishing third in that category was the DeWalt.
DeWalt.
Yeah, the DCM.
Yeah.
So the DeWalt did very well in that. The micro category, the PXE80, the Flex PXE80, which you see here on the desk as well. You use that machine a lot.
Almost every day anymore, especially with cars like you see behind us, with all these body lines and stuff like that, man, and all these little areas you've got to get into on bumpers. It's becoming a major necessity.
Yeah, and then finishing second here, the Griots G8.
Yep.
Eye opener, really. I mean, I don't want to say game changer because I hate the word game changer. It's been used so much, but. Yeah, an eye-opener
really
with
is.
that machine.
It is.
I really didn't expect that machine to step up and take that spot like it did. But in the micro, yeah, right under the PXE80. The PXE80 was at 96 points. The Griots had 91 points.
It performed well.
Yeah, so it didn't have quite the feature set that the Flex does. But as far as for performance-wise, it's a really good machine. And then the Flex XFE 712, which is the corded model of their 3-inch polisher, a great machine as well.
Yeah.
So that's the top three in the micro: is the Flex PXE80, Griots G8, and the Flex XFE 712. The pro category, who finished number one?
Griots.
Griots G9. Now, listen, I'll be honest. You mentioned to me before we kind of ever started this thing was, hey, we've got to get this dog in the fight, and. You know, Griots makes great products. I've been around them all my life, from seeing them at car shows, things like that. But to see it step up into the pro ranks, I mean, 97 points is what this Griots had. So, tons of power, great ergonomics. It just does a great job across the board.
It really does. It gets the job done no matter what you put it through.
Yeah. Finished second was the Flex XFE 7-150. And third was the Flex XCE. Yeah. Again, so your random orbital, then your forced rotation, and then under that was the original forced rotation. The Flex finishing 2, 3, and 4 there, with Rupes finishing behind that. So the Mark III finishing in fifth place there behind the 3 Flexes and the Griots. So that's your results there. Your pro category was the G9. Your micro polisher, the PXE80 from Flex. The cordless model was the Flex XFE 15, and then the Makita PO5000 on the entry-level machine. So there's your top results. Now we're going to go back and now kind of really talk in depth.
Get into it.
As I mentioned, you know, we've got everything from performance, which we'll throw these graphs up there as well. We looked at performance, which again, performance doesn't mean just power. Performance means a whole bunch of things. Exactly. As well as we looked at ergonomics, and ergonomics doesn't mean this is a comfortable handle, but vibration, how things work, how easily accessible is the speed dial. Exactly. All those things are ergonomics. Maybe even cords, things like that come into play. Cord length even. So ergonomics, and then into price and value. So obviously price is a large portion of the value. Yeah. But we looked at price and value. So those are some of the main categories. But again, inside those are broken down even further. Exactly. We'll start with the Griots G9. It won the contest. Tell us a little about it, detail-wise, on your thoughts of it, why it finished so high.
Like I said, to have a polisher in your hand every day like I do, 6, 7 hours, maybe longer, everything about this machine, trigger placement, dial placement, the way it feels in your hand, vibration, it's just all where it needs to be for a polisher that you're going to use day in and day out and really beat on. I know there's a little pushback about it, whether or not it's a main pro polisher or stuff like that, or if it can get the job done. But it doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be full out on, you know, top speed or anything like that to do what you need it to do. It honestly doesn't have any drawbacks, in my opinion.
Yeah, so two things on that. I'll get back to when you first put it in my hand. But first, let me talk about one thing we can't do with this Shootout. We can't test durability.
Exactly.
I mean, now, in all fairness, it's been 6 weeks since we tested.
Exactly.
I mean, because we've had to compile all this data. So now shooting this, I mean, we're 6 weeks from the time we actually tested these. So all these machines have been being used for those 6 weeks, especially that one.
Exactly.
You said get that back here so we can use it some more. Any hiccups with that whatsoever?
None.
None whatsoever.
None.
We can't test durability. We can't test all these for 2 years and validate that they're going to last through their warranty. And by the way, that was another
lifetime warranty. Can't go wrong there.
On the machine. So that was another factor in our points, though. Was a warranty.
Exactly.
You know, how much warranty this has? Is it 1 year, 3 years, 5 years, lifetime? So hard to argue with that. The other thing was, the first time you picked it up, which again you'd been hearing from other detailers, looking at YouTube channels, things like that. It's really impressive. It really is. Again, I don't mean to kind of spend too much time on this, but if you're just a naysayer on this, put it in your hand and try it. Just impressive, especially for the price of the tool. I mean, that's a $159 tool.
Yeah, you kind of can't beat it.
Yeah, $159 tool that, again, like you showed me too, it was like speed 4, 5, or 6. This thing just works. It's not a forced rotation unit, but you never see the pad stop turning.
Exactly.
Yes, you really leaned on it, which was more force than you would ever need on a panel.
Exactly.
So then rolling in at number 2 is the Flex XFE7.
Out of both Flexes, like it's that one there, you're right there with a random orbital. Ergonomics in your hand for that one, top of the machine is designed a little bit different. It doesn't have as long of a snout on it. The actual weight distribution of the tool is that's just one of them things. Even the way it's scored, though, it's not that it's a bad tool by no means. It performs absolutely as well as the Griots did, but there's just certain things. If I'm using it every day, the comfort's just not there with that one. You know what I mean?
It's there, but not comparable.
Exactly.
To the way the Griots is feeling in your hand. And really, I would say the thing I noticed was the difference in vibration.
There is, and there's a little bit different pitch tone in the machine itself.
Yeah, true.
Almost all the Flexes kind of have a little bit higher pitch tone to them.
Almost like a more industrial machine.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like you actually. And again, it's not bad.
It's not.
It's just
but
it is noticeable.
If it's 7 hours allowed, you notice the difference a little bit.
Who knows? It could be the metal in the gears. It could be, and maybe it has more durability.
Yes.
But the point is that there was a little bit of difference
there. Is.
And then the Flex, the 2 Flex fixed rotations.
Exactly.
Right behind them. The updated, the XCE and the old XCE 3401 finished right behind those. So great performing tools.
Just all about how it feels in your hand.
Yeah.
You're going to a forced rotation tool, you know what I mean? Then, a little bit different feel there. You're getting beat on a little bit longer. Yeah.
And then looking at price on those, again, that's where the G9's coming in at like 155. I thought it was 159, but it's 155. And then the MaxShine came in at 210.
Yeah.
The Adams SK Pro 289.
289.
And then the 3 Flexes were all right at that $430 range for those. And then the Rupes was like $465 for the Mark III. Yeah. Okay, so let's go to the cordless models. XFE 15, the Flex XFE 15. So that's the random orbital.
Random orbital, yep.
Battery powered random orbital. Orbital, whatever it is. Flex on their battery powered stuff.
Knock it out of the park. Absolutely. Yeah, you can't go wrong with that tool.
Yeah, and I explained this many times in power tools as well. You see a distinct difference when you go to a cordless unit when the company knows how to build batteries and chargers and the systems marry. Because listen, there's not a lot of battery providers on the planet. So when you look at a tool that has to build their tool and then spec their battery somewhere else, that's not the case with Flex. They know how to build the batteries, they build the chargers, they build the tools, they just
everything
work well.
In-house.
So they get kind of maximum efficiency out of these things. Again, you're not not going to lie to anyone, you're not using a tool a whole day on a battery.
No, especially if you're doing any type of heavy correction on a car or something like that. No, if you're going around a car with just some light polishing, battery and a half or something like that. If there's something where you really got to put some pressure on it, you're going to go through a couple of batteries. And
really, that's a good point for any of these cordless tools. If you're stepping into cordless tools, have at least 2 battery packs.
Exactly, yes, necessity for sure.
Yeah, so have at least 2 battery packs, and again, a decent enough system that is going to keep that other one charged while you're using the other one.
Yeah, because with that, you can almost, once you wear one out, that second one's ready to go again.
Yeah. So anyway, so Flex does a great job finishing 1-2 on the XFE and the XCE, which is their random orbital and their forced rotation unit.
Yep.
And then third was the DeWalt DCM 848. DeWalt was a little odd. I shouldn't say odd. It was a little eye-opening at the same time. If all you wanted was high performance, wide open,
it's there.
It's there.
It is.
It's there. I mean, if you're needing to, get the job done, speed 6, pull the trigger wide open, it is there.
Exactly.
But it was in between speeds, and it just didn't have the feel.
Almost 2 to 5 were all the same.
That's right.
You know what I mean? It didn't really change anything.
Yeah. Didn't seem like there was a change in it, and it didn't seem like on the lower end that it had the power to get through anything. But on the upper end, again, put on speed 5 or 6, pull the trigger wide open, and it will get the job done.
Yeah, and it feels good in your hand. There's no crazy vibration or nothing in that tool.
So going from the DeWalt into 4th place was the Makita, which is pretty much the cordless version of that tool there. Which, in the feature side of things, I mean, it has a forced rotation as well as a random orbital. You can switch it out. But it just didn't seem like it had the performance side of, and it wasn't that it couldn't turn the wheel.
No.
It would turn the wheel, it just didn't seem to get the work done.
Not a lot of power to it, yeah.
And it was the longest, the cordless one was the longest unit by far of any of our tools, not just the cordless, but also of the corded tools as well. Just really long unit. So ergonomically felt good in the hand, but just spread out.
Yeah, it was hard. That backhand placement was, the battery was a good couple inches back behind your backhand, so it's really hard. It's hard to work a tool like that.
And then the Adams 15 millimeter, again, kind of like the DeWalt, performance-wise, if you're wanting to get work done wide open,
it goes. Yes. Yeah.
The speeds were a little funky with the button
on the front side of it. Once you turn it wide open, you better hope you're staying wide open, because it's hard to get back to that front dial.
Yeah. So it was it's hard to get to the button, as well as again, those in-between speeds.
Yeah, not a whole lot to it,
Yeah, so, if you need it wide open, a great tool for that. Performance-wise, the 2 flexes were by far our best performers in that category.
Top notch.
So again, on the cordless side of things, just do a real good job at performing. And then the Adams was after that, and then DeWalt. But again, if you looked at kind of, wide open category, the DeWalt and Adams do a great job.
Yeah.
And then prices on these units, the Adams is the cheapest at $300.
Yeah.
That included the batteries. And by the way, these are battery kits as well with them. The DeWalt DCM 848 was at $449. The 2 flexes were at $500 and $567. And then the Makita comes in at $580. And those are, I believe those are all 2 battery kits.
Exactly. Yep.
With the charger as well. So that kind of rounds out our cordless models. And then getting into the entry level, the Makita PO5000C. Pretty much we just talked about the cordless model. This is the corded model of that. Overall score, like 86 points. And then under that was the Adams 15 millimeter and the Adams 21 millimeter.
Yeah.
Neck and neck.
Yeah, just difference in throw size is all that you're different there.
The Adams machine, I think a great enthusiast machine. You've got your show car, you've got your hot rod, you've got your pride and joy.
It'll get the job done for sure.
Absolutely.
It's just some of the features when you're used to certain tools and triggers and speed dials being in a certain area, and then you get your hands on something that's designed a little different, and you got to move your hand to get to it. It makes things a little bit of a pain.
Yeah.
It's rough if you're doing some actual paint correction to have to take your hand off and search for a dial with it not being right in front of you.
Yeah, absolutely. And so the 2 Adams machines did well. Then the MaxShine M8S was the next one. Again, that entry-level tool.
Similar to the Adams. They're kind of same in your hand. A little bit different in length. I think the MaxShine's a little bit shorter, not by much. But they're all extremely comparable tools. Other than that, they're comparable for sure.
And then the Eastwood and the Porter cable round out that group. Those are pretty much, I think the Porter cable's probably been around the longest.
Yes.
It's kind of that barrel grip design with the speed dial on the back
on the
side.
bottom. Yeah,
and the Eastwood's a lot the same as well. Yeah, heavy units don't get a lot of work done per se.
I believe one we actually made stop, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I don't remember which one that was. But anyway, so those round out the bottom. Again, different machines, but there's still guys out there that still use those porter cables and
yeah, they can still work. Absolutely, yeah. To do light polishing, even if you're just applying a wax or something like that, it will still spread it around.
And looking at the price levels on those, the Eastwood comes in the cheapest at $90.
Yeah.
The MaxShine M8S is $110. The porter cable is $119. The Adams 15 millimeters, $200. Adams 21 millimeters, a little more at $230. And then the Makita comes in at $390. So now looking at the micro polishers, the Flex PXE80 finished strong.
It did.
96 points.
Yep.
A few points ahead of the Griots G8. Not far, 5 points difference. But you touched on a little bit about the PXE80. So it's when you need something small, like you're pointing out in the vet here, around the vents, around the 48 different contours.
Yes.
So you use a lot.
Yeah, it's a go-to. It's become a daily go-to, and is it great in little areas? Yeah, but even if you roll out of a little area and you've still got a decent sized panel that you're running with, it's a powerful enough tool to work on a panel. You know, you're going to wear a battery down. Yeah, it's not the battery. It's not made to knock out a whole panel on a car. But if you just because you're in a little section and you need to roll off to another panel, doesn't mean it's plenty powerful enough to work on a panel. It's just not made to go in little areas. Yeah,
and that's one tool I remember last year at SEMA. SEMA 2019 was the first time I put my hands on that tool, and for a 12-volt tool and hardly not be able to stop the pad, it's impressive. It really is impressive. And again, not that you ever want to lean into a tool that hard, but you literally can. So if you're thinking, a 12-volt tool, it's not going to have the power, try it out and see. So it definitely decidedly won that. But the Griots G8, corded model, but man, again, being the little brother of the G9, smooth, powerful, no vibration.
None at all. Honestly, though, you get just a little bit different. You move to a corded machine at that point in time. It's designed slightly different than the Flex. It's a little bit taller, so it may not fit in as many areas, but it's still, absolutely. For being a micro polisher, that it gives you all the power you need and then some, with absolutely no vibration, just kind of like its big one here. Yeah,
and then the Flex XFE 712, so that's the random orbital small machine. It looks a little unassuming when you look at it.
It does.
There's not a lot of height to it, but it works.
It does. It's
got power, and it gets the job done. So if you need a smaller machine, that's a great machine to have.
It does. The only step down, and like I said, the only step down there is you just kind of like with the other machines, a little bit different noise pitch there, and it's got a little bit of vibration to it, but nothing that harms it or keeps it from doing its job. Yeah,
and then the MaxShine M312, smaller unit, but yet kind of bulky.
It really is. Yeah, it was similar to another one of the ones we use. It's hard to hold on to. It's not very long. Yeah. It's just designed a little, you got to do a lot of looking.
It's awkward.
It is. It really is.
It's an awkward tool to use.
Yeah.
Again, if it's the only machine that you got for small stuff,
it works.
Yeah, you'll figure it out.
Yes.
But compared to some of the other tools we had, which you've got to compare them against one another, just a little more awkward to use. And then the Adams 12 millimeter Mini. Again, I would say, I would say if we had a DIY micro category, that would fall there.
Correct. For sure.
Again, if you've got it and that's what you use, I don't think you're going to have a problem with it.
No.
Anyway, let's look at the prices on these micro polishers. The Adams, while it finished at the bottom, it finished at the top.
It does for price.
Yeah, $130. Yeah. The Griots was second, so $135 you can get. And again, that GH lifetime warranty on it as well.
Yes.
$135 polisher. You've got your micro polisher and a lifetime warranty.
Yeah.
As a DIY guy, enthusiast, that guy looking for, how do you go wrong with that?
No, you don't.
Tough one.
Nope.
The MaxShine M312 was $140. And then the Flex XFE was $380, and the PXE80, that kit is $399 with two batteries. So, but yeah, the Flex, the PXE80 really won hands down in that category. Yeah. Just a great tool. So there you have it. Listen, we're going to have reviews on each of these machines that we'll link to. Just didn't want this to be absolutely too long, which it already is. But man, you're talking about data. I mean, we had 5 or 6 guys that night, doing a lot of the testing, and then Chase and I. Listen, the buck stops here. You know what I mean?
It does.
Ended with us, but we had a lot of people put their hands on these things to actually score. You saw clipboards running around and sheets, and people writing scores down and scoring each of the machines in many different categories, and using them the same way. We tried to keep, pretty much what we have 3 or 4 vehicles that we used. So we tried to keep the playing field even as far as what product goes, as far as what we were using on it. But again, try to get a lot of people's opinion, because when it comes down to it, judging these, there's a lot of subjectivity. We measured as much as we could to make it objective. But again, as we talked about, when it comes down to it with a polisher, so much of it means how did it feel?
Exactly.
How not just performance, but how does it feel in the hand? So there you have it. That's all the compiled data that we have, and that's literally months and months of work. Months prior to setting all this up, and weeks afterwards, and hours and hours.
Just a few.
Just a few. Again, this is Chase from Michael's Auto Detailing. I'm Tim from Shop Tour Reviews. Hopefully we've answered a lot of questions for you. Please comment on any questions that you have, and we'll do our best to get back to you in a very poignant manner. So keep smiling and have a great day.